Hi, Tony. Nice to meet you,
Nice
Tony.
to
I'm
meet you.
so
Mark's
sick
here.
and fucking tired of seeing all the carnivore shit all over these fucking apps.
Well, we have a
Ah,
very special presentation today. We've got Dr. Jocelyn Foran. Thanks for coming on and doing this. We usually do a live show every Sunday, but with guests, we love to come on and impromptu lives. And I've been sort of following you on Instagram, and firstly I got to say, as far as a doctor, when you start your videos and you say hello, beautiful, beautiful human, that's huge. It establishes that you can see the humanity in it, and it's really cool. And I love that about
thank you.
all the stuff that you start. So we will post your links in the description of all your stuff. But firstly, thank you for coming on and having a chat with us today. And I don't know if you've met Mark. We just met, so we don't know where this is going to go. We'll see where it goes. Mark, how you doing?
I'm very, very well. Thanks for coming on, Jocelyn. We have a doctor in the house.
You
Yes.
sure have. Thank you for having me. It's a real
A,
treat.
a doctor who knows what they're talking about.
Well, it's kind of interesting because, as you know, the Flexner report that came out, I think it was 1911, that basically took all of medicine and made it blind to the impact of daily living. Whereas it's so interesting, we look at the history of medicine. We look at Sir William Osler and we say he was the granddaddy and he knew how to reverse diabetes. He made his patients carnivore. But with insulin, we forgot all that.
And that's why I want to go. I want to go a little bit deep into this today, if you don't mind, because we're not getting this information, and you're the only person that has come on, and we've tried so many times to get doctors on to have these conversations, and we know they can't talk too much. So I don't know what we can get away with today, but we'll start off with a little introduction about yourself. Like, how did you get into this space in the first place?
Wow. Well, that's it's a long story, but I'll make it as condensed as I can. So I grew up in a small town and had no exposure to medicine, but I had a mom who was unwell. She had her own autoimmune condition she was juvenile rheumatoid arthritic. And so I ended up kind of mothering my mom as a child. My father left when I was 8, so we were put into a rather deep poverty. But that also gave me an incentive to work very hard and to do the best I could. It got scholarships, went on to do chemistry, medicine, and then I did a residency in anesthesia. But the combination of adverse childhood events, an autoimmune tendency in my family, I developed my own ulcerative colitis, my own autoimmune condition when I was 24. And it was within 3 months of me graduating med school. And I was, for good reason, I was living super cheap. So I was eating a lot of carbs. There was a lot of stress. There wasn't a whole lot of sleeping going on. And I remember talking to the gastroenterologist at the time. I said, should I do something differently with my diet? It would seem obvious. And he said, no, just take the pills. So this is 98, before there was a whole lot of internet searching going on, and I was flat out busy. So I was a good young woman. I just checked all the boxes and said, yeah, I'll take the pills. I'll do all those things. And then I went through, I got married. I had 3 beautiful sons. And so by the time I was in my late 30s, the culmination of eating Canada's food guide. I'm a Canadian, live in Nova Scotia. So yeah, super high carbs. Are you also Canadian,
I'm
Tony?
other side. I'm from Vancouver, so yeah.
Awesome. Well, my oldest son actually plays for the BC Lions, so
Oh,
I'll be
right
at that end. But yeah, the combination of a super high carb diet, high stress, no sleep, I began to really deteriorate in my ulcerative colitis, and then that's when suggestions were made about, oh, go vegetarian, and vegetarian was enough, be a vegan. And so I was a vegan from 40 to 43, and that almost killed me. I was anemic, I was anxious, it was, yeah. And I went to my gastroenterologist and said, maybe you can just cut my colon out because I think I'm done with it. And that was the first time that the idea of carbohydrates kind of came to light. And he said, why don't you try a specific carbohydrate diet? And that is something that is used really for Crohn's and colitis patients, where you alter the carbohydrates you ingest. And so within 2 weeks, there was a huge difference. And I said, well, if specific carbohydrates make a difference, what happens if like low or no carbohydrates happen? So this was 2016. So then I went paleo, low carb, keto quite quickly. And I was keto ready from 16 until about, 2.5 years ago. And then I went carnivore, and I've been off my colitis meds, which is
Amazing.
yeah. And I think because I'm an anesthesiologist, I've seen care from both sides, right? As the patient and as a physician. And I have done many anesthetics for people with ulcerative colitis. I've seen many bowels having to be resected. I've seen people desperately sick with toxic megacolons because it can be a fatal condition. And I just
Can I just touch on that? And
Yeah.
like with that situation, and they come in and see you. Are you still working in this field at the moment? Or are you retired?
Well, I did actually leave my job because I was beginning to get complaints, and I've
Yeah.
never had complaints in 27 years of being a physician. But it was actually, if anything, it was the nurses. They were writing down, because I meet people ahead of time,
Yeah.
and then I just check and I'd say, would you be interested in a metabolic reflection on your lifestyle?
That's what I
And
was going to say. Yeah. Yeah.
some would say yes, some would say no. And if they said yes, I would go through and write down, carbs you'd aim for a day,
Right.
and
Yeah.
protein and fats, and talk about being able to reverse things like their diabetes. So I was writing all these things down, and the nurses complained that I was writing too much and taking too much time. So I said, if that's where we are, then I think maybe this is not the right place for me anymore. So
That's where I was going with this conversation. Like when these people are coming in for surgery, how did you talk your way around that? I'm sure you were in that awkward situation of like, you know what, these people that actually don't need this surgery, they probably just need to look at their diet.
there is so much that is absolutely redundant. There's so many people that I would give anesthetics to, and the most dangerous surgery we do is the surgery that doesn't need to be done.
Fair
And
enough.
there are so many surgeries that don't need to happen. And every patient I put to sleep, I am signing up for that risk of malignant hyperthermia, anaphylaxis, a lost earache. It is a very safe thing to do for most people, but there is still always an inherent risk in giving people large doses of drugs, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, after a while, just seeing all these things, and I was part of it. I was enabling these things to just happen, where patients are referred to specialists, to surgeons. And the old joke in orthopedics is, when you're walking around with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so I did a lot of patients anesthetics because that was the only option that was given to them.
Wow. Yeah, my ex father-in-law was an anesthetist. That I love that word, the anesthesiologist, and he hadn't a clue about nutrition. And in fact, when I started sort of my carnivore, well, I was keto for quite a while, but and started telling him about how important protein is, he didn't have a clue. And it's quite amazing. And that, touching on that too, with the nurses saying it, and that's really interesting, because what I found in a household with a bunch of doctors, there's so much politics involved, and it's not necessarily for the greater good of the patient. And what he did towards the end of his career, he got basically pushed out because of politics. And I feel for you, because that's just crazy. And imagine, when something that you found obviously by yourself, after years of suffering with colitis, and then trying to just share that gets railroaded.
But can I just ask a quick question, Jocelyn? Why is there so much pushback with doctors? Like that, that's what I just don't understand. Like, I just don't, because I had this conversation with many doctors in the past. Like, I lost 2 loved ones to cancer 2 years ago, and I've been in the carnivore space now for 6 years, so I have a good idea what I'm talking about. And I was asking these people these hard questions, and they couldn't come up with the answers. They just literally could not come with the answers. And I'm like, you guys are meant to be looking after these people, but these people are actually suffering. They were suffering in front of me, and I got really angry. And I was like, why aren't these people not listening to me?
It's
Like, why do you have you're saying that you've got a PhD, you're telling me you have all these amazing credentials, but these people are suffering. Can you not hear the screams that are coming out of their mouths? They're in severe pain.
yeah.
Like,
And
it's frightening.
and none of us enter medicine
Yeah.
except for the fact that we want to help the suffering, right? And then we spend time in the system and realize there's a certain way things are done, and you stay in line. The sad truth of medicine is so often, especially in acute care, it is practiced with a fixed mindset, not a growth mindset. Don't tell me what I've learned all these years is wrong. Don't tell me that I might not have the answer. Don't tell me what I've done has actually harmed humans, right? Look at oncology. It's a great example. How many oncologists know the information from Otto Warburg, know that you can starve out cancer by dropping the glucose, dropping the glutamine, increasing the ketones, and yet they still recommend things like Boost and Ensure.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? So, but you stay in line. Right? And so after a while, you can't bite your tongue any longer, right? And so for me, I have a growth mindset. And I'm saying, no, I have learned so much from patients. They have taught me that there are huge gaps in my knowledge, and I better pull up my socks and figure it out. So I live in this small province where 1 in 3 children grow up in poverty, where 75% of our population is living with either overweight or obesity. It has the highest disability rate in our entire country. 38% of people identify as being disabled, right?
Wow.
So I am dealing with a population that is unwell, and perhaps there are many people that are very well educated, but then there's the opposite that aren't educated. So I have gone back to learn about, I've done my American Boards of Obesity Medicine.
Yeah, I want to
hope I am. And so for me, I hope I am one of those docs that did the board exam and never writes a prescription for Ozempic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because I just want to show people that we have all been misled, physicians and patients both, and we've got to work together to get out.
Can I just ask one more question? Are you
You
angry?
can ask a bunch.
Are you angry?
You know what? There have been times I've been angry. I am not angry. I am really quite at peace. I know I have helped many humans. There are some things, believe me, that we all need anesthesiologists for. If you're in a car accident, if your aneurysm is ruptured, there are things that somebody needs to have critical care skills in order to resuscitate. But I do feel like, I hope I am part of a turning tide that is changing what medicine can be, because I went into this to help heal people. To help people.
And this is a good example of, like, when I started my journey, I actually started to study nutrition because I was in a house with a bunch of doctors, and I wanted to kind of be part of it. And I quickly found that it was all contradicting, and it was wrong. And when I was learning from my stuff with doctors, and you're on social media going, well, who do I trust? Who do I listen to? Because there's every side has an argument, and it's quite clear you can get lost quite quickly. But in your situation, this is something that you fit this category, is the outliers that have everything to lose, like that are compelled. A mother is putting her career on the line to put out this information. And quite often we get blacklisted or struck down because of it. I think those are the people, for instance, Nina Teicholz with the Nutrition Coalition.
Absolutely.
Like, these are the people we need to be listening to. I've done the training, I've seen the system, now I'm speaking out against it. That's value. And I think that gets lost quite often with people saying, well, who do I trust? This guy says this, and this doctor says that. And, it's people like yourself that are, I can assume, how much nutrition training did you have during your medical degree? I'm sure you get asked this quite a bit. Yeah.
I learned about scurvy, beriberi, and pellagra.
And that actually ties into all the stuff when I explain to people, like the RDAs and stuff. We are preventing disease. We are preventing deficiency, not optimal. And and it's funny because I mean, when I was started, like most people don't know what pellagra is, and it's a vitamin B3 deficiency, severe. And you know, when you start to look into fortified foods, you start to see it very quickly that these things were put there for a reason, and it wasn't for our optimal health. And that's quite fascinating. So,
and the sad truth is even people walking around, because 60% of calories are consumed from ultra processed foods, we have that combination of people living with severe forms of obesity and malnutrition.
yeah.
Right? So they come to ICU, they are failing, and they have nothing in reserve to help get them through. Right?
Yeah, and we've always said, myself, Tony, and Peter have always said this, like none of us have ever stated that we're a doctor. Nothing. But we've always said, like, why is the question not asked when you go and see your doctor? Like, what does your diet look like? What's your lifestyle look like? These are just common sense questions, because you can go to a vet and the first question that the vet will ask you is, what's your dog eating?
They actually do, yes.
I bring my dog to the vet on a regular basis. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it when I went in. They asked me, what was the dog eating? I was like, oh my God, how come you guys can ask me this question, but my doctor can't ask me this question? Like, they're looking after the animals more than the humans.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Honestly,
I think
crazy.
When the doctor asks, they don't know what the right answer is. So they usually just point to national food guides, which are completely corrupt and biased by corporate interests, right? And so we keep giving people, or like, God bless the people that come in with a BMI of 52, they're 39 years old, but they have nothing left in their knees anymore. And then the orthopedic surgeon says, well, you need to lose weight in order for you to have a safe surgery. And they can't give them anything.
But
right?
you put up a very, very good video today when you mentioned that the population is under muscled. Like, this is huge at the moment. It's a very, very important video that people need to understand this, that when you get older, like, you shouldn't be doing the deficits and the cardio, even though it's good, but you should be focusing on building muscle. Honestly, this is the key to longevity.
Absolutely. And 1 in 2 women will sustain a frailty fracture. And if you get a frailty fracture, it's like a hip fracture. No, as many as a third of those don't leave the hospital, right? They get a devastating complication because they have no reserve. Frailty is a reflection of what kind of a reserve you have, right? So, and so often women, I believe, haven't emphasized or haven't been told to emphasize protein. You know, they get the tea and toast. They get the salad, maybe with a little bit of chicken breast on top, right? So there are women walking around that aren't even getting 0.8 grams per kilogram.
And that's something that, you know, like the same kind of thing as Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. When she starts talking about protein, you can sort of see, like, she's she's fit and she's like kind of like rough, but her message is, you know, as you get older, this becomes more important. Like, and it's funny how all this talk with food pyramids and guidelines and stuff, if the message was just prioritize protein, what happens?
And not only prioritize protein, but it's focusing on the right type of protein. You know what I mean? The right type of protein is absolutely essential, because you're not going to get that from vegan food. I don't care who these vegans are. Like, it's not going to happen. You would have to eat a lot of plants.
Come on, Mark. You want to eat a pound of quinoa, don't you?
Oh, dang it. It's unbelievable. Honestly, and then when we hear too much protein leads to kidney disease, it's like, oh my God, like, name one person that has kidney disease eating protein.
Yeah, people are too scared, right?
You wouldn't find one. You'd be hard to find one.
And protein is the most expensive part of the plate. And I feel like some women really struggle to see that they are worthy of something expensive, right? And so I try to encourage all women all people to get at least 30 grams of bioavailable animal source protein per meal in order to trigger muscle protein synthesis. You need 2.5 grams of leucine to kick over the machinery.
That's right. And I mean, and it's funny how you're saying that, and I'm just seeing Dr. Donald Lehman come in, like, he's just, you know, this guy studies this, and he's saying, you know what I mean? And it's funny how it's a pretty much it's a something to go after and just understand, and then once you just get used to it, it's easy to do because you can just see it. It's not it's not rocket science, and it's really, really important, especially I've got a lot of clients that are ladies over 60, and that is probably the one hardest thing to convince them that, 30 grams every meal, you must be eating this. And it's gonna down the road 20 years, if you want longevity, this is what you're made of. And it's wild.
I'm working with a guy as well. He's in his 70s and he's thriving at the moment. I actually made him I said to him last year, get a t-shirt and put on it kicking ass at 70 years of age, because his testosterone has doubled in his age. He is loving life at the moment. He says it to me all the time. Jesus, Mark, I feel like I'm 35 again. I feel great. I'm bouncing around the gym. This is what we should be talking about. Like, you shouldn't be reaching an age where you're 50, 60 and you're miserable. You're struggling. You're struggling to get up out of bed. You're struggling to exercise, because this is where we're going at the moment. How many times do you walk around and you see people now that are in wheelchairs that are younger than you? It's frightening.
I had the great benefit, the privilege of knowing my great grandmother. I was 12 when she died. She was 101 living independently. And she grew up in rural Cape Breton. Her maiden tongue was Gaelic. She learned English as a second language. But the whole diet, like, they didn't have access to sugar. They didn't have access to flour. If they didn't grow it, they didn't eat it. Right. And so it was a very meat focused diet. Right. And she thrived on that. And we forget that anabolic resistance gets worse as we get older. It is harder to put muscle on, to take protein and turn it into muscle. So when you look at an 18-year-old and an 80-year-old, that 80-year-old needs more protein than the 18-year-old. You can feed that 18-year-old crappy grain and they can still turn it into protein. Not the case of the 80-year-old.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard of him, but like Dr. Michael Rose, when he's in evolutionary biology, and he's basically, he studies fruit flies, but whatever, that's for another day. But the point is, he can study thousands of generations over an X amount of short time. And what his sort of theory is the older you get, the closer to a species specific diet you must become. And there's there's a gray area, but once you pass that gray area, it's pretty, if you don't, you're going to die early, which is sadly, but
I think when you get older and you reach that age, it's like, okay, you've had your fun. Now you need to look at food as just fuel. No more entertainment. We've done all that. We've all done it. It's like, okay, now things are going to change, whether you like it or not. You need to start putting your health first.
You become more resistant.
It's a massive wake up call. And isn't it unfortunate you have to wait until you're desperate to be in that situation?
Yeah. But I feel like there is a change afoot among, because I have also the privilege of watching my sons. They're 19, 21, almost 24. And they know this newer generation is aware that, no, you got to do more protein, get my animal source protein in, right? So I really appreciate seeing young people living it and talking about it and wanting more.
Well, they got a pretty good role model with mom. That's pretty cool. Like, right on. You're living it too, which is amazing.
That's kind of me to say, but I really, they've taught me so much, right? And anyway, I just am, even I was thinking my 24-year-old, it was probably about 10 years ago, he was eating 6 eggs at breakfast. And I was like, oh my God, you can't have 6 eggs at breakfast. And I was like, oh my God, yes, you can.
Now you must have 6 eggs at breakfast, right? It's like,
I'll have 12 yolks.
Yeah. If we can touch on I guess the word would be DABOM, because when I saw that on your profile, it's, whenever I sort of see doctors and metabolic health, you got to be, okay, well, what kind of metabolic health is this? Gateway to Ozempic, like you mentioned, or is it the true metabolic healing? And I noticed it was a certification from the US, and you being Canadian. And when I actually I looked it up and it was like great. They practice great things. Like, it's metabolic health, insulin. Like, it's not just your typical eat less, weight loss stuff. Can you maybe talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So it was an interesting program. And the program is an American board. So it is, certainly it's given out once per year. They have an exam, you have to sit, but there are courses. And the interesting thing about the courses is you can actually tailor it a little bit depending on your interests. So, but it went into a large part of the psychology, the pathology that goes along with obesity, about other things in our lifestyles that can affect obesity too. So they did a nice job of incorporating other ways to address it. And they did talk about low carb and keto. Now, I did this a few years ago. They didn't talk about carnivore specifically, but there, a large part of it was about the drugs, right? And so if I were to look at GLP-1s in particular and say, you know, do they have a niche? I think probably the only place that I really see them as being beneficial, because they are so devastating to the metabolism.
Yeah.
They take 40% of the weight loss from semaglutide comes from our bones and our muscles. So we're making a new generation of humans frail prematurely. But if it could be used in small doses as a teaching tool to get people addressed with their food addiction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I've always said this, the whole point is if you're going to use these drugs, that's fine, but there has to be a cutoff point. There has to be. You can't just convince people that you're going to be on this for the rest of your life. You just can't. It's criminal.
No,
So and I've always said, like, I have no problems with these GLP-1 injections, none whatsoever. But the problem I have is this. Like, first of all, if someone comes to me and they're thinking, okay, what should I do? Should I go on these GLP-1s or should I look at diet? For me, this is just my opinion. It's always going to be food first.
Yes.
Always, because you can't keep on convincing me that the problem is not what you're putting into your mouth.
Food got us into that problem. Food will get us out. Right?
Exactly. So like that's where I would look at. That's why I always have these arguments. I'm like, okay, well, I don't think you need these injections, even in microdoses. I don't think you need any of this. I think what we should do is look at your lifestyle, look at your food, and let's start from there. And if it doesn't improve after 3 to 4 months, then we can probably go down this route. But we have to look at this issue first.
Absolutely. And I think screening people that are living with obesity or that are living with food addiction, because that's not happening, right? So I feel like, you know, the other part is informed consent in the decision-making process in decisions to prescribe GLP-1s, to let people know you have increased risk of everything from blindness to pancreatic cancer to thyroid cancer, that you do have to consume. You shouldn't be able to leave the office without filling out a waiver saying I commit to ingesting at least 1 gram per pound of protein and to do resistance training 3 times per week, right?
You know, it's funny that you say that, because I'm working right now on a program to help people now that are off GLP-1s because of, you know, they get tricked into for the insurance for all that, whatever happens in their lives, and then they're dependent on this and they come off. There is no help, none. So now all that weight not only comes rocketing back, you've lost a bunch of bone and muscle. Now what? Now you're you know, and a lot of people, and I've found doing the research into the market, it's frightening. This is $1 billion industry that's supposed to 10 times. It's going to work out to about $154 billion industry in less than 5 years. That is frightening.
Yeah.
I was in Florida recently, Jocelyn. I was in Florida and they had this big, massive billboard in one of the parks. Huge, this massive billboard. And I'm not even joking yet. Literally every 5 minutes, Ozempic came up on it. That's the problem. It was literally, and in our room, every channel was promoting Ozempic. Every single channel. And it was like, they were giving out like Skittles. It's like, okay, this is good. This is good for you. You need this. And then you look at what happened 2 weeks ago with Oprah Winfrey, possibly one of the most powerful women in the world. And she's saying that I'm pretty sure she would have had all the amazing people looking after, dietitians. None of these people could get this, could get it right. None of them. Because she said she came off the injection. She said, look, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. So she came off the injections. The weight came back. The food noise came back. And she has no idea why. And all these amazing people that she's working with, these dietitians, these nutritionists, these people can't give her the advice that she's looking for because they haven't got a clue. Not a clue.
because again, she hasn't cut off the carbohydrates,
Yeah.
right? So you're still
That addiction,
dealing
food
with that
addiction.
moderation idea, right? So,
Yeah.
and food addiction, but, and again, modern medicine doesn't offer a food addiction out. Instead, it says, oh, well, you can either take the shots, and if that doesn't work, we'll do bariatric surgery, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and 14% of people, the shots do not work.
Yeah, and I feel that's kind of especially in the States, where you have that. There's a business for the bariatric surgery too. So,
Yes.
they're just leading the lambs to the slaughter, so to speak, because eventually, oh, well, it's you're broken. This is you. It's not the drug. I just read an article at The Guardian in the UK, and this doctor was explaining that if it fails, it's not the medicine. The medicine is good. You are the one that's this, and I'm like, this is a national newspaper with everybody. I don't know how it is in Nova Scotia, but Mark, remember when I was walking through the mall here in Vancouver, and all of a sudden in front of me is this giant lit up Wegovy sign, like, get a discount, I was just gobsmacked. Like, are you kidding me right now? This is where we're headed? Holy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we have, I'd say, for the last 40 years, done a very good job of blaming the victim. Probably more than that. Everything from calories in, calories out to, eat less, move more, right? That's bound to work, right?
Yeah. And if it doesn't, it's you, right? Like, that's the fallback, right? It's quite wild. And I remember my ex-sister-in-law, actually, this was 6-7 years ago, went to a weight loss clinic. And this was just when I was starting to figure a lot of stuff out. And she was telling me about Ozempic and how it was this. And I watched her lose weight, eating the same diet, just less of it. And I was like, this is not good. And she was proud of it. And I was like, do you understand what's going on here? And she was so blinded by the hope. And the clinic was saying, well, yeah, we go on it for this long and then up the dosage if you want to lose more weight. And I was just like, holy crap. And I've watched this in real time just become just insane. And it's
but isn't it scary that these people are absolutely convinced they need an injection for the rest of their life, but they won't eat red meat and eggs for the rest of their life?
Yeah. And it's
isn't it? It's just crazy.
It's this idea that, and I think that's the idea of, self-actualization versus being a victim, that, oh, I can't do it myself. I'll need something else to do it for me, right? And in anesthesia, we see it all the time, that like people that aspirate, right? So I had one young man that came in. He had recently stopped his Ozempic, and he was so proud of himself because he'd lost 40 pounds. He said, don't worry, I'm going to keep it off. I'm going to keep it off. But, I did a safe anesthetic for him. I got him awake. I got the extubated. He vomited for an hour afterwards. And I rarely have young people to vomit on me afterwards, but I said, I'll put money in the fact that he's got gastroparesis, right?
No
and
kidding.
So that's a big threat that's happening in anesthesia.
Exactly.
Because people come in and they are fasted, right? They haven't eaten all night, but they still have a pork chop in there from 24 hours ago that can come up and then choke them, right?
Yeah.
So it's a huge problem. But I do really feel like that. I think it's 70% of people are no longer on the GLP-1 at 2 years because they are sick and tired of feeling miserable, of being constantly nauseated. Right? So Virta Health, which is a private company in the United States, and I believe they're trying to reverse like a billion people from diabetes. I'm probably wrong in that number. But they are trying, right? And they have demonstrated that you can come off a GLP-1 and you can continue to lose weight if you cut out the carbs. Right?
Yeah.
And so address the addiction.
And then when we look at the calorie model and we're chasing calories, if you're in a deficit and you're doing all this cardio and you're using up so much energy, what's going to happen to your hunger? It's going to ramp up. Your blood sugars go up. This is where your appetite gets out of control. Those cravings get out of control. You're going through that fight or flight situation. And these people are actually telling you to do this. They're saying, like, listen, okay, if you're in a deficit, you need to suck this up. You still need to do the cardio every single day. This is coming from the people that you're meant to look up to. I hear this all the time. I spoke to Tony and Peter about this a couple of years ago. I'll never forget this. I saw a PT looking after this lady. She was severely overweight. and she had her running on a treadmill.
Mm.
Running on a treadmill. And this woman couldn't do it. She could not do it. And he kept on saying to her, come on, you can do it, you can do it. And he was giving it to her like in an aggressive way. And all I wanted to do was go over to her and just say, listen, stop.
Don't do this. Don't get hurt.
Just stop, walk outside that door, and never come back to this gym ever again.
There actually is nothing that breaks my heart more than when I'm out on a park or at a track and I'm watching obese people give their all jogging, and it's like you can see that they want to do it, and that's all the power. Like that's great, but the effort that they're doing, and it's just like if you just just simple fact, cut out the carbs, but you realize that the diet is the most important thing at this point. Not pounding your joints and looking for injury, then you're worse off, and I just want to go give them a hug, and you kind of battle with that sort of like, oh, I don't want to impose, but I want to kind of help you, and and I'm saying
self-love.
What's that? Sorry.
They need a little self-love. So often I feel like they torture themselves out of shame or guilt, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I can outrun a bad diet, but you can't. And you're 100% right. We have studied this up the wazoo, that exercise does not make you skinny. It doesn't make you lose weight. It helps to maintain a weight loss. Yeah. But what you put on your fork is what determines weight loss, right?
We have a question here for you, Jocelyn from Lambs. You want to put it up there, Tony?
Yeah.
So Joe, he asked, do you discuss this with your colleagues and peers? And if so, how do they respond?
Oh, I discuss this a lot. So I think, there are two camps. There are people that because I am threatening what they know, I get dismissed and I get called woo-woo. That's the most common descriptor. And then there are people that reach out to me either secretly by text, or that pull me aside in the hallway, or say, hey, what do you think about this, right? So I get a lot of that. But I do have a lot of times, like even just nurses that'll come up to me and describe their issues, what something's happening to their spouse or their child. And then I make little suggestions. But I just take it as it comes. I meet people where they are. I'm okay with woo-woo. I think it's kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, that just goes to show you that, like it's funny how the secret, hey, I got to ask you. I don't believe it, but I'm going to ask you, and just cut out the carbs. I can't.
Yeah, it's amazing like how people, they feel so strongly. And again, I feel like continued consumption despite no consequence is addiction, right? So
then you ask them the question, you are addicted to food. They're like, no, I'm not addicted to food. And then you're saying, okay, well, just go 5 days.
Let's go
5 days, 2 days or 5 days without carbohydrates, and you let me know how you get on.
Yes, exactly. Right. So, and I wish more people, like I say, I don't know how many months in your life you're going to have, but can you dedicate 1 month to just eating animal-based food? 1 month. And you will be shocked at the difference it's going to make in your health.
Yeah.
But and I think that you raised an excellent point, Tony. You said the hardest thing is to get people to eat more protein. I think I'd almost argue that the hardest thing is to get people to trust fat.
Fear of fat. That's number
Absolutely.
2. Like in my mind, that's number 2 is like fill up and don't fear fat. Like that's huge, right? Like
so it
but
is.
But the most important thing is that if you're buying meat, keep the fat on it.
Yes.
Don't get rid of it. That's where all the goodness is in.
Absolutely.
But women are always saying to me, like, what would you recommend for the skin? I'm like, if you want collagen, you're gonna get in the fat and the meat.
Yes. Oh,
like
I got this chuck roast going on right now, or like the chicken skin, right? Like exactly. Nature is giving it to us. We just have to eat it.
It's there. Right? It's there in front of you. It's not complicated. Just eat it.
Yeah.
Well, I think
instead they're supplements, right? And so that's what we think we have to buy, but we don't. It's already in the meat.
Yeah. And it's funny when we talk about supplements, like people don't realize that word. Just think about what that word means. If you're getting it from your food, you don't need to supplement. I mean, there may be some holes because of our modern day ways and of getting our food, but I mean, it's quite often like I'm a big believer in food first, but look at where your food quality and your food comes from, and it's gonna give you a lot more answers. But it's
Absolutely.
interesting.
I
Can
think
I
those
change?
of us that
Go
live in
ahead.
darker climates in the winter, I really do believe in the power of vitamin D
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
K2, you know. And so I
Yeah.
do supplement that. I do supplement, and I do supplement creatine only because I feel like I really enjoy the brain benefits of it.
Yeah.
So I put a little bit of that in my water in the morning, and potassium and iodine. And I don't think
Yeah.
enough people supplement with
Oh
iodine.
yeah,
because-
iodine is like for thyroid health. I've always said like thyroid health, iodine should be a must.
But you know how like all those things that you mentioned in a perfect ancestral human environment might be a little bit different, right? And I'm the same way. I mean, I always have potassium. I've kind of changed over my years about how much, but I feel it now. I can pre-cramp. I know my hands start to get a little dry, and I know I got a salt, or you know, if it's salt doesn't work, potassium. And it's wild how and the iodine thing. When you just look at the food and how our soil is, where our animals are raised, if you're eating grain-fed or you know whatever conventional, what meat you can afford, that iodine becomes a big deal. It's not the salt, people. Like the iodized salt is not enough. Like that's not don't do the table salt. That's
prevents you from getting a goiter. That's about it.
Yeah, and that's another thing like we talked about earlier. Why did they put iodine in salt in the first place? Well, study the goiter belt in the States, and you'll oh, wait a minute, that's to prevent that, and it's not for our health. So yeah, I'm a big believer in iodine.
And then we tell people don't eat salt.
Yeah,
right? So even the one source they have is gone. And
Dr.
food
Foran, you're the salt of the earth, but cut it out.
I like to stay salty. Yeah, I'm in that Atlantic Ocean. Even I'm so lucky because there's a great little sauna place that I go to, and you can sauna and then just cold dip right in the ocean, right back in again.
Amazing.
Yeah, right on. That's cool.
I have to ask you the question, Jocelyn, because this is what we're seeing at the moment. We're seeing a lot of carnivores that are introducing carbohydrates back into the diet.
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on this? Because there's so many of them out there that are doing this. And we talk like how important food addiction is for me, because I've always said this: if you're introducing these foods back in, that addiction was never gone in the first place.
Yeah. And I feel like, you know, to thine own self be true, that there are 8 billion people, 8 billion microbiomes. People have to see what works for them. I do feel like, you know, like if somebody wants to have avocados every now and again, you know, I won't look at them funny for that. For me, sometimes I'll incorporate some non-dairy ferments for my colitis if I feel a flare coming on, right? So I feel like, you know, I'll have some sauerkraut juice here and there, but no, I really do feel like it is probably underlying that food addiction. Like I want a little more, and then people regret it. Like you start getting into honey on a regular basis, that's fatty liver. It is super high in fructose.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So honey was made incredibly difficult to access for a reason, right? And same thing for fruit. It was supposed to be seasonal, but now you can get papayas in February in my little neck of the woods, right? So we were never meant to eat this way. And I feel like I was so lucky because I was born in 73. I remember growing up very meat-based, right? And, you know, there would be some tomatoes and some iceberg lettuce every now and again. But it was really in the 80s that everything shifted towards carbohydrates.
I'm 70. I was born in 75, and I have to say, I remember when the margarine came into the house. I remember when it was skim milk all of a sudden. I remember, and it was canola oil and this, and I was like, I hated it. I was a meat and potatoes kid, and I love my milk, but I liked, you know, homogenized fatty milk. And all of a sudden it was like, no, you can't drink this water. What is this? This
Absolutely.
is
Yeah.
And I think when they started switch to margarine at a young age, I was like, I don't like it. I don't want it. And it's not, well, you can't have butter. Okay, I won't have toast, you know?
Yeah.
But yet I'll just dive into the
Kids
cereal.
are so instinctive, right? And I remember my niece, she's 33 now, but when she was little, she would grab the butter and just hump, right?
Yeah.
And everybody thought, oh my God, that's going to kill her.
Kill her, yeah. And then you be forcing her to eat the vegetables, but she doesn't want the vegetables.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think we've all seen all the kids do this with their vegetables. Like,
They knew, right? And I just feel like, you know, again, a fixed mindset of the parent. No, I know best. You must eat this, right?
Oh man, some of the conversations I have with my mom now, it's like, it's wild because she's done a great job with her diet, and you know, she's actually thankfully trusted her son, and she's done a lot of good things. And now she just looks at me and she's like, should have listened to you. Jesus Christ. All those years. Like, she was big on like, my son needs to eat vegetables. He does not eat them. Like, there is a big problem here. And now it's like, wow, you know, sorry, Mom.
Yeah, but
I love you.
Yeah, you almost have to experience it yourself, right? It's like the Joni Mitchell song. I've seen the world from both sides now, right? So she had to get to this place of like feeling nourished, feeling full, feeling awake and alive, right? Not feeling foggy or depressed or anxious.
Yeah.
And you can't go back.
Yeah. And it's, you know, I find that maybe because you help people figure this out as well, is somebody who's depressed and anxious. And I mean, you know, as soon as you start telling them that there's a way out of this, or, you know, directly, you don't really want, because you're basically putting down their anxiety, saying it can be easily fixed. That's not the point. But it's so hard to see people that, you know, what is the harm in getting fully nourished to see what happens? You know what I mean? And it's just little steps to get it, because we've all felt, I'm sure all of us have felt this. I think Brian coined it best, the hunter-gatherer mindset, carnivore clarity. All of a sudden, the brain just goes, there's something here. Wow. And I mean, I was a horrible student. I was, you know, now I'm a sponge for information. I love learning things. And I don't think that's a coincidence that all started happening around 45 years old.
But I'm just saying, Tony, like, if you had said to me when I did my PT course well over 30 years ago, I didn't pay anywhere near as much attention than I did to this when I got into this space. Just because I'm to this day, I've been carnivore now 6 years, but every day I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Every day, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying having these conversations with you guys. I'm learning more as I go along, and this is what I want. I want all this information. Give me it all. I want it all. I want to become this. I want to become the next Ken Berry in the world, the next Dr. Shafee in the world, because this is what I want to learn. But if you had said to me like 30 years ago when I did a PT course, I couldn't wait to go home, because I didn't really care.
Yeah.
I didn't really care. It was all about training. I just couldn't wait to get into the gym and train. Whereas now I understand how the body works. I understand nutrition. I understand metabolic disease, chronic disease, and it's fascinating to see. And it just makes you, I can't really explain it, because it just feels like you're powerful. You have all this information, and you just want to share it to the world.
Yeah, you've been empowered, Mark.
Yeah.
Right. And once you know, like say, you can't unsee it. It's interesting too, because doctor translates into Latin is to teach.
Teacher, yeah.
Right? Teacher. And so we are supposed to be teaching, right? And so I feel like this is, again, something all doctors are, we're dealing with massive amounts of burnout. Doctors are not happy because they are feeling like they aren't empowering their patients. They're not getting the outcomes they thought that they would, right? They're working so hard and moving the ball down the field. So this is something that I think so many physicians would potentially enjoy doing by learning more about nutrition to truly get to the root cause. Look at diabetes. What a phenomenal example, right? It is a disease of carbohydrates. Remove the carbs. Even for the type 1s, right?
I did it.
10 years ago, I would have thought, oh my God, type 1, you have to.
I did it.
No.
My conversation with my doctor went like this. I was pre-diabetic. You will have full-blown diabetes within probably 5 years, 10 if you're lucky. I was like, no, I won't. And she's like, well, there's nothing you can do about it. I was like, well, I'm not eating sugar. I'm not eating carbohydrates.
Oh, can we touch on this subject a little bit, if that's okay? Because this is what we're hearing at the moment. Okay, when it comes to diabetes, it has nothing to do with sugar, and this is an insulin-resistant problem. This is what you hear all the time from these experts. It's like it has nothing to do with sugar. They won't get to the root cause. They just go straight into the problem. It's caused by insulin resistance. And I'm always saying to these people, okay, well, what's the root cause? How did you get to that stage in the first place? Why did you become obese in the first place? Why did you become type 2 in the first place? And then they start talking about fats. And then you're trying to explain to them the Randall cycle, and they're like, well, I've never heard of the Randall cycle. And I'm like, well, why haven't you not heard about this? Because this is what you're trying to explain to me. You're telling me that fats are the problem here, but you're not telling me that fats mixed with sugar is the problem here. It was never fat on its own, ever.
No.
There's no
No.
study out there at all that says that saturated fat or red meat on its own was the problem here. Ever.
Look at the Canadian Inuit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
ate a diet, ancestrally, traditionally, 80 to 90% fat.
Yeah.
Right? And they lived without any chronic disease. They lived without obesity, and they were thriving, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I really feel like we cannot deplete ourselves into thriving. Nothing thrives in neglect. We can only thrive when we have adequate nutrition, right? To get all the macro and micronutrients that we need. But yes, those studies that said that sugar is not a problem, they were funded by the sugar sweetened beverages,
Yeah.
right?
Figure,
So,
right?
but know your source. The first thing I do when I look at a scientific study is I go to the very end, I go to disclaimers.
Yeah.
And so last
Conflicts
year
of interest.
in Canada, the position paper came out about pediatric obesity. And they took the same position as the US.
Yeah.
Don't bother, with low carb, ketogenic diets. That's too dangerous. Instead, what we should be offering is when they're 12, they can go on GLP-1s, and when they're 13, they can have surgery.
What? Ugh.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
What's that going to do to a pediatric, to someone that's going through adolescence?
Yeah.
Right? I have no idea. But nourish them with real food? Whoa.
Yes.
Risky.
No kidding. And I want to touch on two things, Mark. There's something that Dr. Ben Bickman did actually, and he studied saturated fat in a petri dish, and he even admits he made a mistake because it wasn't in vivo. It was, and they were looking at one mechanism without the whole picture. And he even this guy studies insulin, studies this, and he said, I made a mistake because we did this and we didn't take into account all the other stuff. And if that guy is saying that, then maybe we should all wake up to the fact that, this is a problem. Fat was never the problem. That's right.
We are all humans. We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
Some of them are courageous and mature enough to admit them.
Yeah.
And some of them aren't.
But see, the problem is we're making mistakes, but we're doing it every year. We're not learning from it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We're not evolving. We're actually staying the same. So the information is not changing because we're not. It's not allowed to change.
I think there are glimmers of hope. Look at the US, right? So, that was a powerful change. Their food guide. Is it perfect? No way, right? The fact that they still put a 10% saturated fat cap makes zero sense, but it is a start, right?
Oh, it's a start, yeah. But you can clearly see that these corporations still have a handle on this. You can clearly see it, because if they didn't, I'm pretty sure saturated fat would have been a lot higher.
Oh, absolutely. And look at, I look at my country. So in Canada, the Canadian Pediatric Society came out in 2020 and pleaded with the federal government to please put a sugar sweetened beverage tax on to save the children because they have fatty liver, right? And skyrocketing obesity, hypertension, chronic disease. The only province brave enough to do that was Newfoundland, where they had a physician as a premier.
Okay.
He resigned, and they immediately reversed the tax.
Actually, I want to ask you a question. Being a fellow Canadian, have you, RFK comes along. The guy's, he can't argue his fitness. Like, he's in shape. He's flipping things upside down and doing all that stuff. Have you seen our leader of human health in Canada?
Yes. Yeah.
And how do you feel about that?
Yeah. And I feel like that's someone who hasn't figured out their own health journey and is still now spreading that news, right, to others. So, yeah, I just feel like I would love to see people that know how to live a healthy lifestyle being at the head. But we also live in a society that's very much about, having to fulfill certain things. So I'm not sure how that job was procured, but yeah, I do think that RFK is a fantastic example of what it means to be a health leader, right? But look around the world, right? It's just people get promoted and follow along a certain path regardless of their health. And look at healthcare. Look at doctors and nurses. Some of the most unwell people are in healthcare, right? So in anesthesia, we come in two sizes, either really quite slim or really quite big, right? Yeah.
No kidding. And speaking of RFK, and getting back to what we spoke about earlier too, is people don't realize how he kind of got into this was because mothers came to his door. And they
Yes.
were saying, our kids there's a problem, help us.
Yeah.
That's a good first, like, whatever you feel about him. And, you know, that guy's been taken to raked over the coals for a long time. And I mean, you know, the power of the story of how he got here is quite fantastic. And you being a mom, that's got to come first. And that's huge for people. And I think that's, you know, a lot of the people that I listen to now seem to be mothers that are, you know, they just care about their children, and it's quite obvious that the ones that don't, and that's scary.
No, I feel like, you know, as a mother, as a parent, we have to advocate, right? And so I really applaud the courage and the voices of those women that changed his mind, and for RFK for being open and listening too, because so many people just are quick to dismiss. You know, I there are so many things that I've had said to me through the years, and even there's a surgeon I used to work with, and he would joke, but he would say at the end of a knee replacement, "Oh, good enough for a woman."
Wow.
Yeah, but that was orthopedics, right?
Yeah.
And a real sexist environment, but not RFK. He saw them as human, as being wise and well put together, and they made very good arguments, and it's changed the world.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't like that. They're kind of like, well, why isn't he changing everything all at once? And I mean, if you can realize the history of the food guidelines, the history of the vaccines, the history of this stuff, he's battling a crazy uphill battle. And I mean, just to get these little wins, when you understand the business of health, this is a huge thing. And I think it's step by step. Hopefully Canada starts listening to him.
Oh, look at our food guide, right? It's all plants, right?
Yeah.
So again, living in an area with great poverty, the most expensive part of the grocery store is plants. And they're telling people, go out there and buy more plants. At no point did they consider the cost it would be for families to go out and to get these groceries. You know, the food guide people in 2019 were challenged on that, and they said, oh, that wasn't considered.
Yeah.
And then you know what the frustrating part about is when they keep on going on about plants being healthy and fruits being healthy. Like when they talk about processed food, where does it come from?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Just pure hypocrites. Pure hypocrites. It's like, how can you keep on telling me it's healthy for you when you don't know where it's come from?
We got a question from Byron for Jocelyn here. What is your typical day of eating, Dr. Jocelyn?
Oh, great question. So I get up, I do my resistance training. I then usually fry up. I am a big one for eggs in the morning. So like yesterday, I got a new shipment of eggs. The double yolks have arrived. So it's springtime, almost spring. They're starting to lay double yolks. So I had 8 double yolk eggs. Well, it was 4 eggs, 8 double yolks. And then I usually don't eat much after that. So that was probably like later morning. I don't eat until about 4 o'clock. And so then I take a can of salmon. I usually squish it up with some apple cider vinegar. I eat that with pork rinds. And then actually I had cooked up a beef heart a couple of days ago. So I had some leftover beef heart stew. So I had that for supper.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what's is it are you having this every single day, or is your diet consistent of a lot of red meat, or is it more seafood?
Yeah, no, I have red meat every day. I do like to incorporate my fatty fishes, but I would have eggs every day as well. But yeah, it's a large part. We had my husband and I, we have 20 acres of land, and so we put a couple of Devon Highland heifers on it last year, and so we took them to slaughter in November, and so we had beautiful, like we have 800 pounds of grass-fed, grass-finished beef in our freezing now. So that's how I'm living.
Being on the West Coast, I got to ask, how much lobster do you eat?
You know what? I like lobster. They're not my favorite, but I think I could eat my body weight in scallops.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
And I do love mussels too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you guys must all the good seafood over there. I mean, me being in the Pacific, we got the salmon. That's good, but
delicious. Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
We want to respect your time. We're pushing about an hour. How are you for time? Because I'm sure we could probably talk all day.
I've got another 10 more minutes before I turn into a pumpkin.
Awesome. So
I know you wouldn't eat me.
maybe talk about your Instagram handle is metabolic
Medical.
medical.
Yeah.
And now maybe talk about how you're helping people in this stage of your life.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So what I do is I provide coaching to people. So I can't practice medicine outside of my own jurisdiction, but what I can do is talk to people knowing what I know about physiology, pathophysiology. And the lovely thing about being an anesthesiologist too is that we are kind of the internal medicine specialist in the OR, right? So we deal with cradle to grave. So I've done everything from intubating 25 weekers born by a stat C-section to people that have come in with broken hips at 102, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I meet with people that are interested in metabolic coaching, and I go through the full spectrum. Of course, food is the strongest, the biggest lever that we can pull to optimize, but I also dive into talk to me about your stress, right? When we look at atherosclerosis, one of the biggest determinants of who's going to have a heart attack is who is managing or not managing their stress, right? Mental health, severe mental illness is one of the strongest drivers for atherosclerosis. Right? I look at sleep and their hydration. I am looking at their supplements. What are you doing? Are you taking any iodine? Are you taking any vitamin D? So and we go through the whole thing and trying to see what their goals are, what their why is, why they want to improve, why they've reached out, and see if we could move forward. So I've got people in my practice that have everything from, advanced cancers that are trying to alter their glucose ketone index in order to prevent progression of disease, right? To people that just want to lose 10 pounds, right? So
amazing.
Well, I kind of want to I want to nominate you for our Health Canada chief here. That would be I think our country needs a little bit of you, so to speak.
That's very kind of you, Tony. I think it would be a real eye opener for me. I have no idea how those wheels turn, but I can't imagine they're smooth.
No, I mean, I can't even, with all the bureaucracy that's going on now. How have you noticed with helping people? Do they come to you sort of like they take the first step, like I want to know this stuff, or do you sort of like pitch to them?
Yeah, I have people coming out to me. So I don't, unless somebody's actually opened the conversation, I don't push an agenda.
Yeah.
But if someone opens up that door and they're curious and they start asking the questions, and it doesn't matter if it's someone that asks, online that's reaching out for metabolic coaching, or if I'm at the grocery store and someone says, "Hey, I've seen you on your videos," right? So, even just I get, the grocery store checkout clerks that say, "Oh yeah, so you eat a lot of meat. Tell me more about that." Right. So yeah.
And when you're helping people, do you come out and say like, okay, because I know Mark and I don't do this, even though we're very strong advocates for a carnivore diet. Do you right off the bat say, "Hey, you just need to eat a lot of meat and fat"? Because sometimes it's that easy, but quite often it's not.
And I feel like, I try to look at it from a lens of empathy, because they have gone through like we have. They're on a journey and they're just starting out and they're just realizing like, oh, we've been lied to, right? And so walking them along to say, yeah, saturated fats and cholesterol, they're actually quite good and quite healthy, right? Protein is how we evolved. So, and giving them that history to tell them that this is a species appropriate diet, right?
Yeah.
We don't do this with the dolphins. We don't try to make them vegan. Right.
Yeah, and it's good, and it's good that they have to figure this out themselves. Because I think if they're going from one carb lifestyle, an extreme lifestyle, to another kind of an extreme lifestyle into carnivore, they're going to be looking at that and saying, "Well, there's no way I can go from that straight away." Whereas if you just get feedback off them every couple of weeks and say, "Well, how do you feel?" You replace the processed food. Okay, I feel good. The next step, carbohydrates, I feel even better. And then, but they're still getting back to you and they're saying, "Well, I have the gut issues. I'm not feeling well." Okay, well, let's remove the plants. So you want to see the progression in themselves. You want them to provide you with the feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like a gradual introduction is almost best, because then I just say, look, if you can even just make one meal a day just animal based, right? So even if it's just bacon and eggs for breakfast for a week, right? and see how that feels at lunchtime.
Yeah.
Probably not all that hungry yet, right? And you
Mm.
probably didn't need that donut at 10 o'clock in the morning, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, and there's some people that it's taken me almost a year to get off of, like, had to keep having that hamburger bun, half a hamburger bun with their patty, but now they're done, right? Because they realize, if I want to lose this weight, I have to get rid of this thing that's putting the weight on me, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that is very empowering too, when you see people that when they get that clarity or something clicks and they just take that leap. It usually happens in baby steps and then a leap, and then the leap is like, oh my, yeah, it's beautiful. So that's great.
In this person's case, a maddening thing was, of course, in Canada, I'm not sure what it's like across the pond I think, Mark, are you in Ireland? Yeah.
That's right.
So in the United States, they declare prediabetes at a hemoglobin A1C of 5.7, but in Canada, we wait until it's 6.
Yeah.
Right?
And maybe we got to have you back on because we can talk about this, because we probably go for another hour about it. But my philosophy, my thoughts on this, being a former pre-diabetic that is not anymore, it doesn't matter what that number is. It's the process that you're already getting there. Whether you're getting diagnosed or not, that disease process is happening, throughout decades. And if you can get a handle on it, so because we have Peter, which it's unfortunate he's got some stuff to deal with. He couldn't be here today. He's a type 1 diabetic, so he's living this. And, as far as somebody that has to manage their blood glucose, it's brilliant. And he gets a lot of flack for it because people tell him he's wrong. And he's like, I've got all the numbers. It's like, this is proof.
Dr. Bernstein, right? He just died as a type 1 diabetic at age 93. And I feel like there's a tide change afoot. Dr. Ian Lake, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him, but he is a type 1 diabetic. And he did a 0-5-100 that for 5 days, he ran 100 miles.
Yeah.
0 carbs, 0 calories. Right.
Yeah.
As a type 1 diabetic.
Peter did mention him. Yeah.
Yeah. So he just an absolutely incredible human out there living it and demonstrating it day in, day out. But we don't take those people and put them on a pedestal enough.
I know. If every diabetic read The Diabetes Solution by Dr. Bernstein, like, it changes the world instantly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. Well, Dr. Foran, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
We appreciate you and respect your time, but we'd love to have you back on and talk more, because, being a fellow Canadian, and I think we're right in line with the GLP-1 thing. And I think this is going to get worse before it gets better, unfortunately. And it's nice to know that you were part of it and you've become this entity that is doing some real good in the world. And I wholeheartedly believe that. So,
thank you. Thank you kindly. No, I've had a lot of kindness and good done to me. So it's my job to give it back.
Well, I love your message, and I love your ness is great. Yeah. And Mark, is there anything you'd like to say before we?
No, just honestly, I really enjoyed this conversation, Jocelyn. Thanks very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you on. And yeah, if you're ever free again, we'll definitely get you on for a second episode.
Well, Mark, Tony, I do it anytime. You guys reach out, you know how to find me. Thank you.
And if you could just let people know where people can find you and all about your stuff.
I am at Metabolic Medical on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I'm Dr. Foran. On LinkedIn too. I'm not as active there. But yeah, Metabolic Medical, Jocelyn Foran.
Awesome. And we'll make sure we put all the links in the description, and we'll send it all to you as well. And once again, thank you for coming on.
Thank you kindly. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, everybody. Well, we'll see you tomorrow, where you've got another little impromptu interview, and we love these lives. And thanks for coming on live. It takes some people don't like it, and we really appreciate it because it's right out of the mouth and the source. So thank you.
Easy peasy. Pleasure. Thank you, gents.
See you guys soon.
Bye.